Hello, gamers. I think I have a an ethical conundrum, shall we say. I have been in a balancing act with the back the blue and with the blue are the same people that are going to put the boot on your neck. Lately, I have been leaning more towards why should I back the people who will put the boot on my neck when it comes time? And of course, they will say, well, we're just following orders. Same as the Nazis were, same as everyone ever who tries to not get in trouble for something they've done. Now, I'm not saying every cop you'll ever meet would say yes, absolutely, and they would put the boot on your neck. But recently, I saw something that sparked more of a thought experiment in my head, should I say. And it took me to a point where I don't know if it's real or not. Okay? We'll just preface with that. I don't know if it's real or not. Might be real, it might not be real. I don't know. But it led to a thought experiment. Assuming this is real, how far does this go? So, Battlefield 6 is the new game that's out. Now, again, I don't know if this is real or not. There's screenshots of convicted felon warnings, and there's screenshots of active warrant warnings where they ban accounts for the account holder being a convicted felon or having an active warrant. I don't know if this is legit. I don't know if this is true. So far, I haven't found anything to back it up, but I've seen this posted a lot by gamers. So maybe there's something to this. On X, actually, hold on. I'll just post it real quick so that I can pull it up. Give me 1 second. We'll post these on X real quick so that I can actually pull these up. And then I'll pull them up on a separate tab here so you can see. Now, I've seen these on Facebook. I've seen them on Twitter. I just saw them on Threads. I don't know if it's legit, but it made me wonder, how far will the government go in these situations? I guess it didn't post them. That's rad. I love that. How far would the police go if this is legit? How far would they go to enforce something like this? If Battlefield was telling the police, yeah, this person is a convicted felon, would they go after this person? If they were saying, hey, this person has an active warrant, would they go after that person? It made me start to think, when we get to the point where you can't even play a video game without the possibility of the police coming after you, I think we have too much police. And then we're also going to talk for a minute about the hurricane in Jamaica. There's not much I can say about that other than if you live in an area that has hurricanes, you should prepare for hurricanes. So here's the convicted felon. This is the one I've seen shared around the most. Again, can't verify if this is real or not. I don't know. So, it's a notice that says, convicted felon, due to your criminal history, we cannot allow you into Battlefield 6 servers. We have refunded your purchase. This is out of our control due to new legislation, and we have an obligation to keep our players and community safe. This ban is permanent and cannot be reversed. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's legit. Then we have another one here that says, active warrant. The card you have purchased, the card you used to purchase has been linked to a warrant. We will not allow you onto Battlefield 6 servers. We have refunded your purchase. We have sent law enforcement your information. This ban is permanent and cannot be reversed. That's the one that got me thinking. if you have an active warrant and you don't know about it, and yeah, it's possible to have a warrant and not know about it, because at one point my license was suspended and I didn't know about it. My license had been suspended for like 2 weeks, and I didn't know about it until I got the letter that ran late in the mail. Didn't know my license was suspended. It was super rad. Here we have from Rios. I don't know who that is, I'll be honest with you. Same thing. This one, again, I don't necessarily believe, because this one says, due to new legislation. There's no legislation that bans a felon from playing a game, but they make a good point. They say Battlefield 6 is now banning players with criminal records. They say it's for safety. Today it's a video game. Tomorrow it's your bank app, grocery delivery, job applications. When private companies sell your data to gatekeepers who determine second chances, we've already lost. I think that's a fair point made there. I do believe that's a fair point made. I think we're getting to a point where if you back the blue blindly, just police can do no wrong. I think you're wrong. I don't believe that. Now, again, this is not me saying all cops are terrible. This isn't me saying every cop is out to get you. But I'll give you an example. I was driving through a small town, and basically it's a little slow down town. The roads outside of the town are all 55. The road through town is 25. That's on purpose. The whole town is a speed trap. Guess who fell for the speed trap? Yeah, this guy right here. I got pulled over for 55 and a 35, which I don't believe I was doing 55, because I know this town's a speed trap. But I digress. I have no way to prove that I wasn't. So for argument's sake, okay, I was going 50, or maybe it was 50 and a 35. I digress. The officer then, after talking to me, decides to tell me, well, I'm not going to write you for speeding because you've been cooperative and polite, but I am going to write you for not wearing a seatbelt. This was the first thing that put me on this thought process. Because I've always heard people say, back the blue is silly because they're the same people that are going to put the boot on your neck. In this situation, the boot was put on my neck. He pulled me over. I said, hey, I don't doubt that I was speeding. I was in my own little world. I'm going to the woods. I was thinking about the woods. I wasn't thinking about what I was doing, and all of that was true. I was on my way to the woods. I wasn't thinking about where I was. I wasn't thinking about where I was. I was thinking about where I was going. I wasn't paying attention, and that's my fault. Then I took full responsibility. I said, hey, man, I'm not even going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue. I was probably speeding. I wasn't really paying attention. I looked down, saw that I was going a little fast, and slowed down, which I did. But I don't think I was going 50. I think I was going like 50. And I told him, I looked down, I realized I was speeding, I slowed down. And then, he pulls me over anyway. Which I think right there is like, you saw that I slowed down. Like, there's really no reason to pull me over. I mean, yeah, I guess. It's not like I was still going 55 or whatever when you pulled me over. I was down to 35, 40. You could have very easily just been like, hey, man, saw you were going a little fast back there. You caught it. Chill. Would have been cool with that. But instead, he writes me a ticket for a seatbelt violation. This seatbelt violation, which is a crime I did not commit, was handed to me. And I understand a seatbelt is better than a speeding ticket. I get that. That's not the point I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to make here is this cop wrote me a seatbelt ticket. I was wearing my seatbelt. He wrote me a ticket for a crime I didn't commit. Was I willing to fight it? No, because if I'd have fought it, the court would have said, well, it says right here on the ticket that this was a warning for going 50 or 55 and a 35. How about we just enforce that ticket? And it would have screwed me. So, I had to admit fault for a crime I did not commit to stop myself from being punished for a crime I did commit. I think we're getting to a point where there is too much law enforcement. I think too much law enforcement can be a bad thing. I think it can be a net negative, honestly. When you're speeding and you're not doing it on purpose, and you realize you're speeding and you slow down, do you deserve a ticket? I think in most cases, no, you don't. Did you break the law? Yes. Did you do it on purpose? No. You were driving and you weren't paying attention. You zoned out and went a little too fast, realized you were going a little too fast, and slowed it down. That's not worthy of a ticket, in my opinion. Now, I am of the belief that speed limits in general are very stupid because there have been several countries that don't have speed limits or don't enforce speed limits, and most people still go the speed limit in general. And the handful of people that don't go the speed limit, they get the hell out of everybody's way. Like, it's really just, it seems like a way to generate income for the city, township, state, whatever it is. A few months prior to that, I got pulled over for texting while driving. I received a ticket for texting while driving. That was on me. Big dumb right there. Don't do that. Anyway, I called my mother, who's worked in the legal field for my entire life, and I said, hey, do you know an attorney? Because I don't need a moving violation on my record right now. A moving violation would do really bad for me right now. Is there any way we can get this knocked down? Plus, as a CDL holder, texting while driving is a big no-no in a semi. Well, it never distinguishes whether or not you're in your personal vehicle or in your semi. So we got a hold of a lawyer. The lawyer went to bat for me in the area that I got pulled over, and he got the ticket reduced to a burned out headlight or a burned out taillight. It's just a burned out bulb. And that was the original event that started this thought process of, well, if they can just say, hey, whatever, just so that they can get some money out of you. Is it actually law enforcement, or is it just making the city or the state or the township or whatever money? Which led me on a larger thought experiment. Which led me to, a lot of people don't believe that if they were to ban guns overnight, a lot of people don't believe the police would come to their door. If the police will say, I know you were doing one thing, but I'm going to say you were doing another thing, regardless of reasoning. I understand they do this to help people. I understand a seatbelt ticket is a lot less impactful than a 20 over. I get that. I'm not arguing that. But the point is they can just say whatever, and it's enforced. There's a seatbelt ticket on my driving record for a time I was wearing my seatbelt. There's a headlight ticket on my driving record for a time my headlight was not burned out. The alternative is worse, of course. But it makes me wonder, is this the same cop that'll say, well, I'm giving you a ticket for something. Whether you did it or not, I'm going to give you, you're getting a ticket. I'm going to give it to you for something, regardless of whether you did it or not. Is that the same cop that when they say, okay, now ban all guns? Is that the same cop that's going to say, well, I'll take your AR, but I'm not going to take your revolver because you need something? Is that the same cop that when they say, okay, roll up everyone in that protest because we don't want them protesting here? Is that the same cop that will say, I'm going to arrest you for trespassing because the alternative would be rioting? Are these the same cops and the same legal system? Because the first one, the texting while driving, was not a cop that was not reduced by a cop. It was reduced through court. That cop was a raging dick. Fuck that guy. If you're watching this, right there, I hate you. I hope the worst for you. Actually, I don't hate you. I hate your actions. I hate your actions. I don't hate you as a person. I hate the way you behave. I hate the way you let the badge go to your head. You're a douche. And I hope that you find something in life that makes you happy, because you're clearly a very, very unhappy person, and you're kind of a raging dick. And I hope that you do better one day. I really do. Whatever's got you being an asshole all the time, I hope you find something. I hope you find something that makes you happy. I digress. If our legal system is just made up of, hey, whatever, find him for something, right? You got a guy walking down the street, and he drops a candy wrapper while he's walking down the street, and the cop says, I could arrest you for dropping the candy wrapper, and you can go to jail, or I can write you a ticket for jaywalking. Well, he didn't jaywalk. You're writing him a ticket for something he didn't do, even though you're helping him out. But now you're generating money for the state or the city or the town, whatever it is. It made me wonder how many cops actually care about actually making society a safer, better place, and how many cops are just in it to generate the money. They just want to make the money. A lot of police departments, they don't have quotas. However, you have to have a certain number of interactions with people. Good or bad, doesn't really matter. Most of the time they want good, obviously. I mean, bad interaction, I guess, would be someone calling and filing a complaint. But a good interaction, by the department's definition, probably ended in a ticket or a citation of some sort. Good interaction probably doesn't end with, hey man, I'm going to give you a warning, have a good one. Cops are incentivized to engage with people to get promotions. Not a direct, hey, you have to write X number of tickets and then you get promoted to this rank. It's not that, but they do look at the number of times a cop has interacted with people on their shift and determine that's a hard worker. He deserves a raise. He deserves a promotion. How many of these cops that will pull you over just to get the interaction, write you a ticket just for something so that they get the interaction on paper so that they can get the promotion, how many of those cops would come arrest you because you're standing near a protest? How about this? You're someone like me. I'm not a mainstream journalist. I don't have a press pass. But if just for example, there's a riot in Cleveland and I'm just there taking pictures and getting video. I don't have press credentials. I'm just a guy. I'm going to get rolled up with all those rioters. I'm going to get rolled up with all those protesters, and I'm going to say, hey, I'm a journalist. I'm not a mainstream journalist. I'm an independent journalist. I don't have press passes. I don't have press credentials because I'm not big enough for that. I'm not, no one would look at me and say, yeah, you deserve a press pass. I'm not big enough for that. I'm a very small independent journalist. I would get rolled up with the protesters. I would get rolled up with the rioters. I would get charged the same as the protesters and the rioters. I didn't do anything other than document what was happening. And I started thinking, back the blue is really kind of dumb. I see a lot of people, back the blue, back the blue. And again, I'm not saying all cops are bad people. I'm saying there's a lot of cops that will do whatever the department says. They will, whether they agree with it or not. Hey, I should write you a ticket for XYZ, but I'm not going to. I'm going to write you a ticket for a crime you didn't commit because it's less bad than what you actually did. That makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. Because, and it's not, okay, yeah, I'm helping you by writing you a lesser ticket. That makes sense to me. I'm helping you by writing you a lesser ticket. What does not make sense to me is you're writing me a lesser ticket for a crime I didn't commit. You're saying I committed XYZ crime. I never committed that crime. That gets put on the record that I committed that crime. If you're willing to do that, because it helps me, what else are you willing to do? Right? Because I guess technically, a cop shouldn't be allowed to write someone a ticket for jaywalking when they were littering. A cop, because, littering carries a $500 fine in a lot of states, jaywalking might be $50. So a cop might say, hey, pick that up. I'm going to write you for jaywalking because I think $500 is a little ridiculous. But I never jaywalked. I never did that crime. It's worrying me because if the left gets back in power, they're going to use the full power of the police, of the government, of any law enforcement branch that they have. They will use the full power to come after people like you, people like me, conservatives, right-wingers, whatever you want to call us. They're going to come after us, and they're going to come after us heavy. They're going to come after us hard. They're going to come after us heavy. They're going to do everything in their power to put people like us in jail. They don't want to hear what we have to say. They don't want to talk about it. They killed the guy that wants to talk about it. Let's not forget, it was only about a month and a half ago, that Charlie Kirk was murdered. September 10th. It's October 29th. It was about a month and a half ago, a little more than that. They killed the let's talk about it guy. What comes next? And when we have police that kind of do whatever they want, and they kind of make up what you did, I'll decide. What was the saying? Show me the man, I'll show you the crime, right? I'll decide what you did wrong. It's not, I'll decide if you did wrong. It's I'll decide what you did wrong. That's what bothers me. That's what that cop could say, well, I can't write you for, I can't in good conscience write you for 20 over because you're a nice person and you were, we all do it. You were cruising, weren't paying attention, we all do it. I'll give you a seatbelt ticket instead, even though I had my seatbelt on. I didn't do that crime. Why is it an option to decide what the crime is after the fact? It just boggles my mind. And so, much like with the gun control argument, is he going to come and say, yeah, I searched the house and I found an assault rifle. I found an AR. I found an AK. I found an SKS buried in Papa's closet, and I took that. But I didn't find their revolver because I didn't think that was worth taking. Is that what's going to happen? It's just, we're at a point where I think the average person commits it's either 2 or 5 felonies a day, and they don't even know it. They've created a scenario where at any point they can roll you up, and they can and will hit you with something. Whether you did it, whether you didn't do it, whether you thought about doing it, whether you've actually gone through with it, it doesn't matter. They can roll you up and hit you with any crime. Because the average person, I think the average person commits fucking 10 crimes a day, and 2 of them are felonies. Just think about it. When you walked across the street to go to the convenience store, did you cross at a crosswalk? No, that's a crime. Why? Why is that a crime? They made me think about how much stuff is actually illegal. There's always the example of it's illegal to walk down the street with a ice cream cone in your pocket in Georgia. Well, that's because that's how they used to steal horses. Why is that still a law? So I put an ice cream cone in my pocket, and I walk down the street in Georgia. It is completely reasonable to expect to be arrested for something that doesn't apply today. The problem is we have too many laws. And then you look at someone like Mike Glover, who was arrested for domestic violence. The wife, girlfriend, whatever it was, said, yeah, I made that all up. And Mike has to pay, I think, $500 a week to get supervised visits with his children because the state will not give his kids back to him after he was completely acquitted and she said she was lying. She said, I made it all up, and the state said, well, you still don't get your kids back. We have a problem in this country. We have many problems in this country. We're not perfect. Law enforcement, however, is becoming a problem when show me the man, I'll show you the crime applies to regular cops and they can pull you over for anything. I watched a video the other day, or no, this was earlier today. A guy got pulled over and he was acting perfectly normal. And the cop asks him out of the blue, "Hey, how much have you had to drink today?" "I don't drink. I haven't had anything to drink." "You want to do a field sobriety test?" "No, I don't. Where's your breathalyzer at? Breathalyze me." And they went back and forth. And the cop's like, "Well, I want you to do a field sobriety test." The guy's like, "No, breathalyze me. I don't drink. Breathalyze me. I got nothing to hide. I'll blow all zeros." And the cop finally relents and gives him the breathalyzer test. As soon as that dude blows all zeros, the cop says, "When's the last time you smoked weed?" The guy goes, "Are you fucking serious? Like, you think I'm drunk and then I blow zeros and so now I must be high?" And the dude's acting completely normal, just like anyone else would. Yeah, the dude got into a world of shit for that. They arrested him for driving under the influence. He blew straight zeros. And they still arrested him. Now, that's an extreme example. Obviously, that's an extreme example. But that shit happens every day. Aiden Mattis from the Lore Lodge, he had a friend when he was in college, got arrested for having a bong but no weed. He got his friend got community service for having a bong with no weed in a college town, where most cops would go, "Hey, don't be smoking that while you're driving. Put it away. Keep it in the house. I don't care what you do in the house." Most cops. But this cop decided that he was going to enforce the law. And most of the time, weed is a victimless crime. Most of the time. I know a lot of people that have smoked weed in my day, and almost everyone I know, actually everyone I know, has never hurt anyone while they're high. Minus like maybe, a fist fight. But I mean, like, there was one dude I knew that he got into, like, him and another kid got into a fist fight and one of them was high. But that's not what I mean. I mean, they're not going out committing crimes. They're not going out doing anything to seriously hurt people. They're not driving high and wrecking their cars into people and fucking killing people in car accidents. For the most part, I'd say 99% of marijuana use is a victimless crime. But the state can't tax it, so it's illegal. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. I see time and time again, people will get in trouble legally for things that they didn't do. There's a famous video of Ohio State troopers pulling over a bunch of motorcyclists. The first cop pulls up, all the bikers pull up and stop. The second cop rolls up in a Charger, screeches to a stop, gets out, starts wigging out, and he says, "I'm going to write every one of you motherfuckers for reckless off. I want keys. I want IDs right fucking now." Just going off on these guys. And he's like, the cop's like, "Who's your buddy?" And the guy's like, "I don't know." And then the cop's like, "Bullshit, who's your buddy? I'll write every one of you reckless off right now." They weren't, as far as this officer's knowledge, they weren't committing the crime of reckless operation of a motor vehicle. As far as the cop knows, they were riding with someone who was doing it. But they're going to get ticketed for his actions because he can? No, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And it's a very famous video. It's not hard to find. There's a lot of videos of even cops taking the keys from motorcyclists, which if you pull me over on my bike, you're not taking my key. You're going to take me to jail. If you think you're going to take my fucking key, you're on a whole nother level of bullshit. You're not taking my key from me. Straight up, fuck you, no. And now generally, it's only crotch rockets that do that too because of how fast those bikes are. I'm on a fucking dirt bike. They're not going to yoink the key from my dirt bike. But if they do, I'm not giving it to you. I had a Mustang that I wrecked that was stolen by the police department. You might call it an impound. I call it theft. Tow truck driver asked me where to take the car. I gave the tow truck driver my address. I said, drop the car off here. Tow truck driver says, okay, I got to talk to the cops first. I said, why do you have to talk to the cops? I just told you where to take my car. Long story short, tow truck driver takes my car to his lot, not an impound lot, his company's lot. Now, turns out the city I live in uses their lot as an impound because it's a relatively small city and we don't have our own impound, even though there's an impound right down the road from my house that belongs to the city I live in. But, we don't have an impound. That's what they told me. What's the lot down the street from my house full of impounded cars then? The whole thing was a big load of bullshit. They took my car, and then I told them I want to buy the car back. They said, we can't do anything until you go to the police department and get the car released. So I go to the police department. Had to pay to get the car released. Had to pay the police department money to get the car released. Back to the towing yard with the papers that said that the car's released, and I said, I want my car back. They said, oh, now you have to pay us. I said, what do you mean I have to pay you? They said, well, we towed your car. I said, I didn't ask you to tow my car. I went back and forth with this lady. This lady wanted $900 for a totaled car. I totaled the car. I totaled my Mustang. This lady wanted $900 for this car. I said, lady, the only thing I want out of that car is the engine and the transmission and a few pieces and parts. The car is not worth $1,000. I'll pay for the tow, and I'm taking my car. So we eventually agreed on a price, and somehow it ended up being like a $300 tow across a town that's maybe fucking 5 miles. Yeah. It was all a load of bullshit. They stole my shit and then extorted me to get it back. That's what happened. But you back the blue, right? It's a thin blue line between order and chaos. In my experience, it hasn't been. It hasn't been a thin blue line between order and chaos. Because when the chaos comes, they're nowhere to be seen. When I had a kid on the highway trying to run me off the road in my F-150 years ago, I was like 21, 22 years old, there were no cops to be found. When I've had people cutting me off and trying to wreck me, no cops to be found. The thin blue line between order and chaos never really seems to exist when there's chaos. It seems to be a thin blue line between order and chaos when it's convenient for them, when the story matches their narrative, I guess. Anything else, it's you're on your own. Good luck. Anyway, that's my rant. There was news to talk about, but I was listening to Mike Glover talk about this, and I was listening to Mike Glover talk about how out of control policing has gotten. And it really is a sign of a society that's falling apart when they start making everything illegal. If your society is moral and upstanding, we don't need a lot of laws, right? Because moral, upstanding people aren't going to steal. So to say stealing is illegal, it's kind of pointless because we're not going to do that in the first place. I really think we're in rough waters. Real quick, let's jump over and let's just talk about this Jamaica thing. A hurricane's hitting Jamaica. I mean, that's all there is to say about that. Reuters says Jamaica's strongest ever storm, Hurricane Melissa, returns to Cuba. So it hit Jamaica and now it's hitting Cuba. And I believe we might see this in Florida. It says Hurricane Melissa churned towards Cuba's second largest city. I hate those things. Hurricane Melissa churned towards Cuba's second largest city with the force of a powerful Category 4 storm on Tuesday, hours after making landfall in neighboring Jamaica, as the strongest ever cyclone on record hit the Caribbean island nation. We got 500,000 people evacuated in Cuba, hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans without power. Parts of western Jamaica are underwater. Southwest Jamaica was battered by a hurricane last year. Well, yeah, you live in a fucking place that gets a lot of hurricanes. Yeah, that's going to be a yearly occurrence, genius. So, you know, I guess prepare for hurricanes if you live in an area that has hurricanes. I really got nothing for you. Don't hide in the basement because that's a good way to drown. Um, I just wanted to touch on that because that is something that's happening and it's not good. But if you live in these places, maybe like have evacuation plans. I don't know. I guess that's probably a good idea. Anyway, that's all I got for you. So I just wanted to touch base and I just like, yeah, I had stuff to talk about like the auto pen. Fuck, what's the word? When the president says no, you're good and signs off. No, you did. You no one cares if you did the crime. What the fuck's that called? God damn it! Hold on. Pardons. That's the word I was looking for. They avoided the auto pen pardons that Biden signed. We'll probably talk about that tomorrow. But yeah, that was another thing that just led to this. If we can pardon you, we can basically say no one cares that you did this crime. What's the point of law enforcement? And I guess that's the key takeaway from today's video. What's the point of law enforcement? Quite honestly, I don't think there is one at this point. I mean, people just do whatever they want anyhow. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope things change because the future looks bleak. Anyway, that's all I got for you. I'll see you all in the next one. Later.